It is Poppy Month, remembering our fallen heroes. And the reason we wear poppies is because during World War I, what was seen by soldiers far and wide amidst the rubble, mud and chaos were fields of bright red poppies, stubbornly standing upright against all odds. And George V introduced the tradition of wearing poppies in 1919 to honor those who, though fallen, stood upright for their nation. A big thank you to the partners on our show who are truly one of a kind. Skills for Inclusive Growth and Australian Aid, Srilanka Life, CDB and the Morning Newspaper. Thank you. And if you like Kaleidoscope and don't want to miss out on our weekly show, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
Did you know you can open a digital fixed deposit with just 5,000 rupees? Open a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit today. CDB, your friend.
In our CDB snapshot today, we begin with a few highlights from the 2023 budget. The budget deficit is estimated at 2,404 billion rupees, equal to 7.9% of GDP. Revenue in 2021 was one of the lowest in the world at 8.3% of GDP. An annual addition of $3 billion is expected from new exports from 2023 to 2032. New economic zones are to be established in the western and northwestern provinces, as well as the Trincomalee and Hambantota districts. Sri Lankan Airlines, Sri Lanka Telecom, Hilton Hotel, Water's Edge and Sri Lanka Insurance are to be restructured. Currently, of the 420 SOEs, 52 key SOEs have incurred losses of 86 billion rupees in 1 year. Labour laws are to be modernised, productivity enhanced and public sector to be reformed. Plans to achieve FDIs of $3 billion annually over the next 10 years. And finally, the world is more crowded than ever. The Earth's population reached 8 billion this week with the birth of a baby girl in Manila.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome. This is our Srilanka Life News Capsule. President Ranil Wickremesinghe as Minister of Finance unveiled the 2023 budget this week, an ambitious yet much-needed plan to revive and modernize the economy, distancing it from past traditions of populist policies and instead setting sights on policies and strategies for an export-oriented competitive economy, environmentally friendly green and blue economy and digital economy, with reforms being a key factor. I checked in with the chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Vish Govindasamy, on the pulse of the corporate sector post-budget. Vish, budget 2023 is an ambitious one. It has a lot of restructuring, a lot of transformation that will have to happen if we are to meet our targets. Now, from your point of view, what do you think of budget 2023?
Overall, I think the direction of the budget is good. It's more policy than our usual reduction of this and giveaway of this and freebies and etc. So for a change, we have changed of giving freebies. But I'm very concerned on the ambitious revenue target. I hope we can make it, because without that, the international donors and the IMF will find it very difficult to fund us, because they keep saying that our debt is not sustainable. On the other side, not much has been said about the expenditure. I would have liked to have heard something like we are going to reduce 10% of our defense budget. Unfortunately, I think it's there in small words, but there is not a big attempt. Yes, we are trying to reduce the public sector, but it's a long road. We have gone from a 600,000 people public sector to a 1.5 million. reducing 1 million people in 2-3 years is a dream. But I hope consistency, SOE reform, the right price for the utilities, etc., are finally a good thing. We have to get away from being always subsidized. We cannot live in a subsidized world and keep feeling good.
The budget is designed to appease our international donors. Would this, however, have been what the corporate sector actually expected from Budget 2023?
The difference in what the corporate sector usually expects is some amount of sustainable things that we can go. And I have seen that, there are changes that has been made over 3 years and 5 years rather than overnight. In the past, everything was tomorrow morning, this will change. But the kind of taxes that we are going to pay is not any corporate would not have wanted it, but do we have a choice? We don't have a choice. We are in a world today, I think if Sri Lanka has to go forward, each and every one of us has to tighten our belt, and that's the unfortunate situation. As for the businesses, next 12 to 18 months are going to be extremely difficult with the contracting economy, 10% contraction. The demands are crashing. Our working capitals are mounting at 30% interest rates. So this is a most difficult time for businesses. In my career, I have not faced such a difficult time for businesses.
And now for a look at our markets. This week on the Colombo Stock Exchange, the all-share price index dropped by 4.2% and the average daily turnover remained low at 1.2 billion rupees. WTI oil fell to $85 per barrel as concerns over geopolitical tensions eased and rising COVID-19 cases in China added to demand worries. After reaching a 3-month high this week, gold prices weakened to $1,760 per ounce as the US dollar strengthened with improved retail sales and a US-China confrontation fading. As war continues to rage in Ukraine, the famed yet anonymous graffiti artist Banksy spray-painted 7 new works in Kiev and other cities in war-ravaged Ukraine. If you want to read 4 times faster, sign up for a free speed reading program with Sanjeev. Just let us know and the gift will be on its way. Up next in S4IG Let's Talk is sustainability strategist Eranthi Prevaratna. The UN published that in 2019, only 34.5% of working age women were either employed or seeking work, in stark contrast to the 73% of working age men in the same situation. Studies have shown that Sri Lanka could add 14%, that is $20 billion to its annual GDP by 2025 by increasing the female labour force participation, adding women to high productivity sectors. With me today is sustainability strategist Eranthi Prevaratna. Eranthi, welcome and good to have you on S4IG Let's Talk on Kaleidoscope. This debate about women in the workforce or the lack of women in the workforce or the limited number of women in the workforce has been going on for a long time. Give me a rationale as to why there are less women at work in the formal sector. Why is there such a disparity?
I think the formal sector is the key term here, and I would put it down to 3 factors mainly. One is the culture. Men actually don't have the privilege or the luxury of, sort of thinking, okay, I'm going to quit, figure something out to do, right? Whereas the women have that luxury. So at some point in their career, some women decide to drop off and, find something else to do out of the formal sector. The second one is organization. So from an organization perspective, it depends on what the organization has to offer the woman in terms of compensation and benefits, in terms of career progression, culture, recognition, all of that, right? And the third one is personal, I would say. Personal in terms of, at a point in their career, who takes care of the children, what are their choices, who takes care of the elderly, so all of that. And at that point, the women, especially in the urban middle class, they tend to drop off.
So also in this instance, what happens to the fundamentals of equality, where women should get equal pay, equal career opportunities, equal recognition? How does that work?
Legally, I would say, Sri Lanka allows for it, for all of these equalities. However, in the private sector, it's still a boys' club, very much a boys' club, right? But also what happens is that then the men tend to sort of, promote the men. They're comfortable more with them. It's somebody's, friend or son, or, went to the same school. So with all of that, what happens is that the men are recognized, they get connected more, they have those networks. So it's, the women have to work extra hard to get to that, really get into that network.
Now, like you mentioned, there are some very unfounded theories about employing women. Maternity leave, for instance, which increases expenditure, transport after hours, which add to the expenditure, the ensuring the safety of women in the workplace, family issues, hindering productivity. What would you say to employers who actually have this rationale and don't look at the statistics and the contribution women would make to their bottom line?
Traditionally, what has been sort of taking place, or the thought process has been, okay, if it's a woman, they need to be protected, they have to be given special treatment, they need to be looked after, transport. But what about the men? So it's not about men and women, it's about the individual. So it's about screening and getting the right person for the job, number one. Number two, it's also about treating all your employees in a particular manner, not to look after the women and then make the men, treat the men lesser.
So how do you plug the holes in general when it comes to attracting more women into the workplace and, more importantly, making sure they are retained in that workplace?
So I would say the most problem that I see is actually retention as opposed to attracting, because many women join the workforce, the formal sector. But what also happens is that for a number of reasons they leave, and some of these reasons include things like flexibility, the ability to balance their families and pursue their passions. So especially after post COVID, I think flexible working is a must. Having the right policies and procedures in place to make sure that there's no bias in the workplace, that individuals are treated as individuals, not as men and women, and generalize. So that's important. Then also taking care of the workplace in terms of eliminating harassment, bullying, all of that. So all of those things are important to create a culture that will retain, keep the interest of the woman and keep her in the work.
So here's hoping that we will see more women in the formal workplace, and also that we are able to keep them and see a tangible feel of their productivity. It's about intrigue, murder, mystery with a twist of romance. The classic Agatha Christie whodunit. And that's what Cole Theatre 7 is bringing on with Witness for the Prosecution. Founder and artistic director of Cole Theatre 7, Kevin Cruz, who revels in suspense and murder mysteries and has directed other plays like 12 Angry Men and Women, Mousetrap, and Then There Were None, popped into the studio this week for a quick chat.
Usually when I watch a play or watch a movie or read a book, I'd like to keep myself at the edge of the seat. I'd like to try to solve the puzzle myself rather than knowing beforehand what's going to happen towards the end of it. Being an artist or being a director and being able to produce productions and shows, I feel that, I'll be able to very nicely keep the audience or keep our audience at the edge of their seats if it's a good script. It's a different phase from a Cole Theatre 7 point of view as well. You see a lot of new faces, a lot of that I will be working with as opposed to the previous productions, and it's also a sign where people are moving on and things like that. But in terms of the show, it must go on. So it's quite special in a lot of ways. We are doing it after 7 years, another Agatha Christie and a fresh bunch of cast members.
Witness for the prosecution is on this weekend and runs until Sunday the 18th. Get your tickets at the Wind. Don't miss it. Enjoy the play. We'll be back next week.